I will give you the rest of my money if you can prove definitively that what I am doing is not in the best interest of women. That what I am doing is not a form of necessary tough love for every race. Look at Big Bird or the Toys R Us giraffe. These are images that are impressed upon children. Where is the tall, handsome martial arts hero from Africa? He's non-existent. You'll have some sissy version of it. You know, Black Panther is a shorter guy. It's quite disingenuous to think that a shorter guy that didn't accept my challenge is a more fit model for some black superhero. You know, and then he's defended by a bunch of women. See how they've taken my role and everyone like me right out of it. I tell you the truth. Africa was defended first and foremost by special forces of people who were more like me than anyone else. Alpha versus beta. Beta create a psychological construct like Daedalus in the Labyrinth, in the story of King Minos, Theseus, and the Minotaur. When we talk about thresholds for sexual arousal, it was a positive evolutionary trait for 300,000 years for alpha males to have a lower threshold for sexual arousal. In other words, they're more readily aroused. Why? Because they're supposed to produce, and women are supposed to be receptive to spread this superior stock, which has to do with outsmarting someone. Your bloodline is outsmarting them naturally if they are creating greater warriors and more masculine men. This is a form of intelligence. It's only when the masses of beta males team up with women who are sick in the head and other sickos that they create a concrete jungle, a construct, a psychological construct. Here, kin, cunt, cunning, con, conspiracy, and connected are all connected. The principles of evil and cunning versus wisdom and the principles of good. Freud and fraud, he dies in 1939. Who knows what happened in 1939? Hell, who knows what led up to it? The sexual immorality in Germany that was pushed by the enemies of the German people. Let's make no mistake, before World War II even happens, tell the truth, the enemies of the German people were taking advantage of them. Sexual sadism, all forms of sexual immorality, forced homosexuality. I'm not saying all gays are bad. Some of them are pretty decent people. But let's make no mistake. People were preying on the German people, and they had that snickering, sniveling, smirk, sneering. What happens when people prey on your people? And you value your people for a higher moral reason, and people are treating you that way. Doesn't it demand an alpha male response? How can you then turn around and demonize the alpha male? I'm not saying the Nazis were right. They were wrong about some things. It was wrong to treat people this way. And when World War II starts, what happens? After Freud says that mental illness, quote unquote, is related to suppressed sexual behavior, and this causes the end of, quote unquote, Victorian morality, really Christian morality. This is when it really peaks, and now we're going straight down publicly. So the sexual revolution will eventually happen in the 60s or so. You know, boom. 21 years after the beginning of World War II, when Freud dies in 1939, we begin to see things spiral to the ground. The Falcon spirals to the ground. A dark cloud goes over some of the Germans, at least. And we see the black sun and the black falcon. And the falcon spirals to the ground along with the red sun of Japan and the decent Italian people starting to be rubbed the wrong. That was going to be a good video. I apologize. I was cut off. We're going to talk about set stances and the Shaolin dummy movies, draw parallels there. The robot and the dangers of focusing on good form and not maneuverability, and how it's like outmaneuvering a robot with predictable moves. We're going to talk about the months. We're going to talk about women being dumbed down unfairly. We're going to talk about stable, right? Stable, he stays, the bully spirit, versus unstable. Telling the bull, hey, the spirit of Ra is staying, and we're not just going to have some unavoidable degree of bullying, you know, more or less, but we're going to move toward perfection in the spirit of On. So again, when Freud dies, I don't want you to forget this. Freud died in 1939, and one of his key arguments was there was a connection between mental illness and repressed or suppressed sexual behaviors. And this led to the sexual revolution. It also led to a more passionate shunning of people with high morality because they blamed them for suppressing their sexual behavior, desires, fantasies, and making it harder for the beta male to fulfill his sexual desires. And there were the masses of beta, I'm sure we can all agree that, the majority of men do not man up. They act like bitches for whatever reason. I do believe it's nurture heavy. And as a result, when they team up together against the alpha males, they screen them out and they prey on the attractive women. Coercion, tricking, conning, mesmerizing, trances, hypnosis, things are related to these ideas and where science has gone with them, and propaganda and the psychological construct and so on. All right, we're going to explore these ideas in the next video.